For July 18th. And at this time, I'd like to do roll call. Phil Starkey.
Here.
Misty Pritt.
Here.
Carl Armour.
Here.
Tom Ratliff.
Here.
All here and accounted for. And I'd like to ask Tom if he would do the Pledge of Allegiance for us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. President, I had a report this evening, but when we changed our meetings, Mr. Stearns was not able to come, so we're going to have a vocational report from him at the next meeting in August.
All right. I'm going to take this opportunity to make a few remarks as board president. Every once in a while, we have to refocus on where we are, and many of us on the board get phone calls with regard to employment situations or salary situations, a variety of items, and since we're an intervened board, we actually have no authority. And I find this when I'm downtown and out in the grocery stores, people think that we're approving the employment of people, or that we're endorsing salary schedules, and that isn't the case. As long as we're intervened, we have authority to approve student trips and to do disciplinary hearings. That's it. And so for questions, any questions should be directed to the office of the superintendent. And, you know, the idea of intervention, I have done a lot of research, and I understand why Gilmer County Schools were intervened. The failure to meet a state mandate in the submission of a facilities plan was the primary reason, as I understand, for the intervention. Of course, when you get facilities problem and the intervention comes as a result of that, it also applies to everything else when a county is intervened. So a problem, and I don't understand all the history. I know that there's a lot of misinformation that floats around, a lot of manufactured facts, but I think that we all do well if we concentrate on verifiable facts, and I think that's where we have to start. So I wanted to say that, and at the same time, as I talk with people across the state of West Virginia, I don't find people in public education to disagree with the idea that intervened counties generally are not much better off than ones that are not. In other words, intervention has not demonstrated that it is a real problem solver. And basically what you do is trade one set of politics for another. And an intervened board, I mean, we have worked hard as a board, and we have the interest of the students in Gilmer County at heart. This is what we're interested in. And when I asked Dr. Ferris to give us some idea of what the future plans were for Gilmer County, it was important because there's some things we want to work on. And I think he told us to do that. And so we're going to, starting tonight, we are going to be an active board. Even though we may not have authority, hopefully we will come up with some ideas and some plans that will be of such a nature that Mr. Blankenship will value them enough to begin to pursue them. This is our hope. An intervened board's like a rocking chair. It gives the appearance of motion, but it doesn't go anywhere. And so, you know, this is where we have kind of been, and I think it's, we're at a point as a board, I think this board is a good board, And I think we can sit down and discuss the issues that come before us and deal with them within the limits that we have. And I think that we can do a lot of good for our students and for our schools. Money is always a problem. And, we can disagree here philosophically all over the globe. I doubt that there's any one thing that can be done, whether it's placing a school or making a decision about a program that everybody's going to agree on. There are some who are going to be for it, and there's some who are going to be against it. But we do count money. We do count figures. And again, I can disagree philosophically, but at the end of the day, if we have to figure how we make ends meet, we count that. And so there are all these things that we have. It's a very complicated dynamic. And yet it works, and yet there are teachers in classrooms and students being taught. And our goal is to improve that, because the world that these students are going out into is a very, very highly competitive world. And we are just on the verge, as you're going to hear a lot about it, of some of the most challenging new standards and ways of doing business that we've had since the 50s and 60s. Every teacher is going to be evaluated every year. Everyone is going to be evaluated. School board members are going to be evaluated. And schools will be measured not on AYP or a number of other measures, but on actual performance and outcomes. And so I think we're at a time when, history repeats itself. We're at a time when we're coming back into a period where there are going to have to be some very serious decisions made. And they're not going to be easy. There will be a lot of pain. And I maintain the first time that a student comes home who's been making all A's and B's with a D on his report card, that we're going to start hearing about it. But this is going to happen. We're not all straight A students. And so, the pendulum's swinging back to greater accountability, and we're all going to be learning this. I told a lady in Charleston today, I said, we're going to be learning 5 years from now what all the implications are with these standards, if we know by then. And so the fact that we don't have all the answers, that's perfectly normal. There are a lot of folks who are working with it who don't have, because the answers really haven't emerged yet. It's like working with a piece of clay. You have to work with it and mold it until it becomes something. And that's kind of where we are. And we have a good start. One other thing, I have had some good conversations with our state superintendent. He plans to bring Charleston to local levels. He wants to do the kind of outreach that he did here and in Mingo County at basically the same time. We discussed some of the issues that are here, and the issue of our facilities, it has still been a topic of discussion. And as he and I talked, he says that as state superintendent, the facilities plan that we have now submitted to the State Board of Education and to the SBA, this is Gilmer County's facilities plan. He also says that he can basically, if there is any money at all, we will be assured of priority in terms of funding for the new elementary school. And that's very important. We were very hopeful last spring. It didn't happen. When you have 10 people wanting something and you only have enough for 2, some folks get left out. But I think we're going to be right at the top of the list. Dr. Manchin and Dr. Ferris have both been very supportive. And so I think that there are going to be some things come our way. Now, I wish our population were greater, and I wish we could have a school in each community, but that just is not within the realm of reality right now. If we get an influx of population down the road and have need for another school, let's build one. And so I think that we have to look at what we can afford and the long-term obligations that go with a facility. Building a building in and of itself is not an end to the cost. It's a continuing expense, both for personnel and for maintenance and upkeep. But I wanted to say those things because being an intervened county, yes, it's awkward. Do we want to move and get some things done? Yes, we do. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to be very open in our discussion. And I want those of you who represent different points of view in the county to feel perfectly free to come and sign up and share your ideas with us. This is what we want. There is a place on our agenda, and will be, for delegations, and any concerns that you have, please bring them. And the way it works, if it's something that the board deems as something that they want to pursue, it can be on the agenda for the next month for discussion. So I want you to feel welcome to come and welcome to express yourselves. It's out of different points of view that we grow and learn. And so we don't all have to sit here and agree with each other. In fact, if I teach a class, I get aggravated if all the students are buying what we're talking about. And so we want to not only try to govern education, but we want to be educators. So I wanted to say that too, and I want to convey that, because we should have a room full of people here tonight. Well, Mr. Superintendent, that was one of the things I wanted to say, and we are going to, we're going to be alive as a board. And we want you to feel free to contact us if there are items that you feel need to be discussed, and I'll work with Mr. Blankenship, and if there's something that we feel we can get on the agenda and deal with it, we certainly will. All right, board reports. Mrs. Starkey.
All right, I'll have to pass on getting a report on June the 18th meeting because I was late for the meeting. I'm sorry. I'll try to do better in the next 7 years. I forgot that the two superintendents had changed the thing to 10 o'clock from 11. And I did get there, but I got there about 45 minutes late. The only excuse that I can give to you is that it was festival week, and I had 75 people coming to my house. And I wasn't thinking about going to a meeting at that time. I can report on the June 16th meeting. I'll pass out the preliminary minutes for that meeting, if you'll pass these up. There should be one for everybody there. Because we've had that meeting, matter of fact, we've had 2 meetings since we came to that. We'll have to give Mr. Blankenship one too, he probably hasn't had a chance to take it off the email. We had a reorganization of the council, and it was done. Mr. Blankenship is our new president. Mr. Cox is our new vice president. It was unanimous vote, contrary to what some of you might think. It definitely was. On the report section, Mr. Stern presented a letter to the Gilmer PSD regarding obtaining water from the PSD. Mr. Craig Baker is of Thresher Engineering, and I brought the letter, if you'll pass one up, that he's asking for extension of, as I told you before, the 3 miles to go into the county to help our children, because we've had a lot of problems with the water treatment. And in this case, we'll eliminate that if we can get it. And in the letter, you can read it for yourself. We've said we'd give $50,000 for that program if they would do it. They are working on it. They haven't came back to us yet, and I'm sure that they will as quickly as they possibly can. And we're hoping for a good return from them, and hoping they will give it that. Mr. Baker reported to the council that the SBA did not allow them to rebid part of the treatment plant project because it was over bid. Dr. Manchin did not allow that, he said, because they had been burnt once before by allowing to rebid, but they were going to allow us to go ahead with the pros one and let them look at it again, but we would have to stop the program, the project that we were doing. I think the council felt, and also Mr. Stern, along with Mr. Baker, that with school starting so early, that wasn't a good idea. We need to get the water in if we could and get the treatment done if we possibly could. So he actually decided not to wait and go back and offer to the SBA again for what they needed. You know how long that takes, and we just didn't have the time to do that. Baker stated that Thrasher Engineers felt that their motto was to put as good a project out as they possibly could out. So they actually donated towel racks, dispensers for the bathrooms and things like that. They gave those because ours, of course, had been written on, and you know how that happens up here and all. And it wasn't going to look in a fancy new looking bathroom to have those. And Mr. Stern and the council was actually very appreciative of the fact that Thrasher gave to us instead of taking like a lot of companies do, and we were very pleased with that. Thrasher Engineering, after donating this material, and the reason for that was because we couldn't go with the wall covering and stuff for the bathroom and stuff because we didn't have enough money. But the SBA did allow us a $15,000, and we are going to do part of the wall covering. The new, looking at the water line that they were going to put in was 1.5 to 2 inch water line, and it would have to go all the way around the building and under the asphalt. Well, they decided they found a cheaper and better way in which Thrasher Engineers to put it in, and they decided that they were going to try that, and the council approved that because it was a better way to do it, and they were going to do it that way. They will proceed on the shop drawings on Friday, this past Friday, to get it. Mr. Blankenship, if you have anything you want to add there, feel free to add anything. But that was just about what they did, Thrasher Engineering. They're doing an exceptionally good job, very nice job. On new business, the annual audit was actually completed. We were very proud of it, which we generally are. There was one small glitch. They wanted us to put it in the paper, which hadn't been done. And of course, that's not going to be any problem. They can go right ahead and put on it. We gave Mrs. Weekly a very sound thank you for what she had done because she's an excellent worker and she does an excellent job. We have personnel. We have 3 jobs that we're posting. And one of these jobs is the auto night class. Mr. Snyder, who is an auto instructor, is very interested in this. And he probably will be the one that will do it, but we don't know that yet. But he says the citizens need ATV work, small engine repair, lawnmower repair, tractor repair, chainsaw repair, weed eater repair. And we have very few people around in our area that can do that type of work. And he feels that will be a godsend to most of the community that we have. Building construction is another place. And this we're extremely proud of because Hardman Hardware actually does all the instructing at the employees come in from Hardman's Hardware. We were going to them, but now they're coming to us. And they actually come in and they do the teaching of the construction on how to use tools, what to do with them, how this works and all this. The welding, of course, is one of our best programs that we have. We started out with 3 last year, probably have to go up to 5, because it is one of our better programs that we have to, put a lot of interest in. So those are the 3 postings that we are going to give. We also employed one person, that was Linda Jones, and she's been employed by the Adult Basic Education Group for that class of a night. And she's very good. She's done it before, and I'm sure she'll do an excellent job. On the general discussion, there was discussion of a laptop that was needed, but Calhoun very graciously said they would take care of that, which we appreciate. A student handbook. I gave you a picture, I gave you that last time, But I want you all to pass this up and take a look at the finished product that they have. Inside you will see on this cover that I'm giving you the actual, what I gave you last time in the meeting, which is all the rules and regulations and the handbook for the students. And this is exceedingly nice cover, but each student gets one of these covers, and all this stuff is put in that for the knowledge of each group. We're still discussing the academic support for the basic skills because we are trying to remediate students. And we are trying to be proactive because of the fact that the West test, when they're given down there, we need to actually have the West test given at each school instead of there. Isn't that your understanding for that? And so what we're trying to do is get the West test given at each high school instead of dividing the kids, because some of them come in the morning and some in the afternoon. It makes it very difficult, and the West test will change in this next year, and we really need to get that done if we possibly can. There was discussion which I had asked about the care providers for the state, because Dr. Ferris had put in that we needed 4,000 more providers, and our state didn't have these. And I suggested, Mrs. Taylor was there, she seems to be a very knowledgeable young lady who really knows what she's doing, and she was going to check with the ones at Calhoun for the child bill. And I suggested that they may check with you, that you were on our board, and I was sure that you would be very eager to help any way the kids that you possibly can. Mr. Stern also discussed new policies. The staff down there is doing all their policies. And Mr. Hughes, who's the state representative, he's excellent, and we're so proud to have him, he discussed the fact that the 4373, that they had people at the State Department that could help them write those policies if they cared to have any help at all. Our next meeting will be August the 20th at 11 o'clock. Hope any one of you would come. We'd love having you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Starkey. I passed around a couple of items that I've brought from the RESA 7 meeting in Fairmont in June, and one is a copy of the goals that State Board of Education has adopted. These are their priorities and their goals. And I think these would be important to us as we start looking at our goals as a board. I've been in contact with Dr. O'Call, and he has indicated that as soon as he gets an opportunity on his schedule, later this month or in the month of August, he'll be up and have a workshop meeting with us and help us hammer out 3 or 4 goals for the next year. So we'll let you know as soon as he's got a time that he can do that. I also shared with you a copy of the hiring and transfer of school personnel administrative guidelines. And this is something new, and I know some personnel directors in several counties who are really wrestling trying to understand what it is that they have to do in employing folks. There are several changes in it. I see hiring the best candidate, and to me that was always standard, but it's spelled out here. I think that the schools, the faculty members in the various schools working with the principal are going to have a lot of input into the people that they want coming in filling positions. And I think we recognize the quality of a school that depends largely on the quality of the personnel. And so we hope that these new practices will lead to a situation where we don't have people teaching out of field or who are not certified or not qualified to do a job, because students pay the price for that, and ultimately your county system does. But I wanted each board member to have copies of this and take a look at it. I'm sure that we'll be revisiting it in time. And again, Dr. O'Call will be visiting with us sometime within the next month. RESA 7, I enjoy those meetings. For one thing, Larry Parsons was the president of the group, and I still have some sway over him since I had him in English 202. The new president of the board, Susan Collins, and I don't know whether I had her in 202 or 315, but Glenville was well represented in RESA 7, and I'm real proud of them. They do a good job. There's always been a lot of discussion of training with regard to Common Core standards and the new legislation. We get a little update on how the training is progressing, and I think everyone now involved in public schools at almost any level is involved in some form of training on the new standards. Board members themselves are going to have a training session on August the 17th in Clarksburg. RESA 7 will work with us on what is expected under the new standards of board members and what types of evaluations will be done of the performance of board members. So board members are not the only ones, teachers are not the only ones who are going to have performance measures. Everyone involved in the school system in whatever way will have an evaluation. It's certainly much easier to talk about in the abstract than it is to actually implement it, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of difficulties with it. But nonetheless, on the 17th, we will get a training program, and hopefully we'll all understand a little better what's involved. Dr. Ferris attended our meeting and shared a great deal of information concerning the state board and the new standards and various attitudes. He did point out that there have been some assaults on the Common Core. He doesn't think everybody necessarily buys into the idea that we need new standards. There's several questions that he touched upon on remedial classes. For one thing, he pointed out to us that when the Higher Education Policy Commission had a vote on raising tuitions, that he voted against it. And he gave us one of the reasons why. And it had to do with the very high level of remediation. And I hadn't really thought about it, but it's a two-edged sword. We talk about how high a percentage of our students who graduate who need remediation. But on the other hand, if you're on the other side of the high school and you're looking for enrollments, the remedial classes take tuition and fees also. And so the longer a student is enrolled, the more the financial benefit to the institution. And I think, he wasn't really accusing it. He just, there's a problem there that we need to examine. And I think, the question of dual credit courses, we need to look at that too, because if you have a college level course taught by a high school teacher, I want to know that that teacher would be qualified to teach in a college, at a college level. So there are some things we've done over the years, and I've been part of it. When I was at the college level, we were part of encouraging this system. So what we have to do is back off and evaluate the effectiveness and the validity of it, because it's the student who first and foremost needs to be considered. He made it very clear that all teachers will be evaluated each year, which will raise the accountability level. He talked about the various levels of schools from priorities to focus, and how the state is going to focus a good deal of attention on those schools that have the greatest needs. One thing I liked, and we saw it here firsthand, he plans to take Charleston to the local levels and communicate with people on the local levels instead of just being a superintendent in the abstract in Charleston. And while I know this is very laborious and takes a lot of time, I think it pays off because he's not just a name and a title. He becomes a person, a real person who can be asked questions, and we can hear his thoughts. So I think this is excellent. One of the other situations that we've talked about a little bit, I know Dr. Armour and I have, pointed out that there are no statewide statistics on our schools. And he says this is going to change. In other words, we all have data, but that data is not set up in a way that we can do comparative analysis. And that surprised me because we've spent a lot of money on a lot of technology. And no more than I know about a computer, I know there's a lot of information there. And if I punch the right buttons, I can retrieve it. Well, I know Dr. Armour can attest to the fact that you can't do that. And we should be able to see how our students are doing in comparison with Lewis County or Calhoun County or Harrison, things that can be very helpful tools. And so I think this is a real step forward. In terms of hiring practices, faculty senates need to be trained in order to participate in those new guidelines. The principals and the faculty senates will make recommendations on employing teachers in our schools. I think that as time goes by, we're going to see our RESAs having a greater and greater role in the counties that they serve. And I think this makes sense. I'm impressed with what I see going on in RESA 7. I can't speak about the others in the state, but I know that one, I'm very positively impressed with it. I think there are several issues going on. You will note in those goals for the state board that one of their goals is to return as much local control as possible. And I think that's great. But on the other hand, we've gotten some missives that say we have a commission, and I believe the community, especially parents, should always have access to locally elected officials who oversee their schools. But that does not mean we can and should provide all the current administrative overhead to each of our 55 county school boards. We must become more efficient. So I'm hearing different points of view on where we should go. I'm hearing, as I look at details, that county school boards can approve school calendars and be public sounding boards. That's one model. And then on the other hand, the need to have actual in the county decision making with regard to the public schools on the part of the board. And again, who knows where this will go? There's a lot of rumbling, a lot of discussion among school board members out there. So the next few months we'll see more clearly where this goes. But now's an interesting time. And that concludes my report. Item 5, trip requests.
No trip requests this time.
All right. Item 6, consent agenda. As I understand, we can take these items if there are any one of them that you particularly want to discuss or make a motion with regard to. We're certainly open to do that.
I will have to recuse myself from this consent agenda.
May I ask a question?
It's already
Yes.
been voted on by the state board. The people that's on this agenda is already working in the board office. They've already been given the jobs.
So it really is not appropriate to consider it.
I don't think we should consider something that's already been voted on by the state board. I mean, that's just like rubber stamping, it's just not a good idea. But I have to recuse myself because lo and behold, it's nepotism again. It's gonna rear its ugly head. So I'm going to have to walk to the hall.
Just on item B, Phyllis.
But all of this has already been voted on
Oh,
by
yeah.
the state, you know that.
Mhm.
So all we're doing is rubber stamping.
Well, then I'd say that one we don't need to vote on.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
When we look at the bills submitted to paid, they're all about half inch of this. I'm looking back here, Williamson and Shriver, I don't know what page 59. And it says Gilmer Elementary Project, $13,319, and American Geotech and Geotechnical, $3,724. What work did that involve?
The geotech is, that's when they're involved in the actual drilling of the core drillings to see if everything's okay.
So that's at Crooked Run?
Yes.
Okay, Crooked.
And Pterodon would be this, they're involved, of course, in similar kinds of things.
Okay,
And that's all work on the Crooked Run side.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on any of the other items under the consent agenda?
I did have questions on the notice that we got when the meetings were. Since it's not on the agenda, has it not been approved by the state board?
No, that's something I'm just suggesting.
Okay.
And if there are conflicts, we can change those.
Okay, I hope. We had 5 times change this time.
Or
I
3,
had to
but
call and set a doctor's appointment for the 15th, called it off, put it on the 18th, called it off, told him, wait, you know, I'll find this, and I'll be darned if you didn't put it on the 25th, and I said, we'll go back to the 18th, because that's when it's already, and we've already got that one, go back to the 18th, had to call it off again. You know.
does anybody know if they have any conflicts with any of those?
It would be hard, I think we'll all at some time or another have a conflict.
But it's a set thing that you know that you have to work around if it's, you know, if you're a board member. That's what I like about setting it. And it's the 3rd Monday. I mean, we're actually, and the public is, this is under the law, it's supposed to be done at the 1st of the month and set for the public so they'll know when the board meetings will be. As Mr. Blankenship can tell you, that's the way it is. The only other question I had about this agenda was on the employment, which, you know, if you're going to do that, I'm going to have to go to the hall. Was the faculty senate, did the faculty senate actually get to vote, Mr. Blankenship,
No,
on their principal?
They won't really be able to do that until they take the required training, which is online, as well as the principal, and that they'll start, I think that needs to be done about the 1st of September.
I heard them discuss that on Hoppy on the morning,
Mhm.
because they have every Thursday, they have Harrison County board members and the president and everybody on the radio station, if any of you care to listen to it. And they were allowing their their faculty senates to already do it, and I thought, well, how could they do that if they have to be trained?
Well,
They were complaining because they hadn't been, the law actually was passed in March,
Mhm.
and they wanted to know why they hadn't been on the agenda to do it since March, and they were arguing over that.
Yeah,
But
the state board hadn't set any of the guidelines before that, and actually just set those this month.
Right, I think, you know, that our people would like to know that the reason they're not getting to do that because they haven't been trained to do so.
Yeah, and
Because it is, the other counties evidently have been trained, but they wouldn't be allowing it.
well, it's all voluntary. If the faculty senators want to come in the summer and
They don't have to.
go through the process, and then they go online, get the training, and then they'd be eligible. We're so close to school starting here in about a month that it's
No, I
almost.
don't believe their school is starting at the same time. I think theirs is starting the 19th, which is long after
Yeah,
ours
the
starts, so
19th.
they have time in which to do that, I think. Thank you. Oh, one other thing, and what Dr. Simmons, and I do listen to you, Dr. Simmons, on that one about the state boards of education. You might not know this, so I'll tell you that the State Board of Education gives each board in the state of West Virginia $50,000 for their board a year. That's not very much money considering, but it's $50,000. And this board never uses that whole $50,000 ever. And that's the reason we don't go to all the trainings and things, but we are allowed $50,000 in which to do that with. And it's set by the state, unless they've changed it. in the last little bit.
I think, Bill, is the problem I see. There are so many meetings that if you live a normal life, there's not any way you can go to all of them.
But the whole point is, you know, you don't, once you get past that 50, and we'd always, what we don't use goes into our general fund, and the students get to use it. And that's basically why we haven't used it as the others have used it. The $50,000 is not much for what the boards do all year, 12 months out of the year. I don't know how they're gonna take that down any lower, but maybe they can manage it.
Mr. Blankenship, under employment, I noticed on the sheet we got tonight, there's, one item that was on, the personnel employment that I got in my packet that's not on here tonight. Was it not ready as far as the custodian here at the high school?
No,
It's not quite ready to hire on that?
no, actually, we had a change, somebody changed their mind, and we had to negate one, so we had to repost it.
Reposted?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be on the next month's agenda.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda?
Their H1 child nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
have we got any feedback on our hot lunch program as far as the nutritional benefits of it
Yeah,
this year?
all
I know
the agendas, or all the, actually, the menus are approved by the state. Joe
Well,
works with the cooks on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
even he polls teachers, he polls students to see what kind of thing they like and don't like.
I know there were some counties that got involved in that program that were unhappy with it.
Mm-hmm.
Wood County is one of them, but they didn't even get involved down because they were concerned about the nutritional value of it or something. I was reading the paper, so I wonder,
Yeah, there's a set of guidelines that you have to adhere to.
yeah.
Mhm.
Will they be implementing that program again this year at the elementaries?
We plan on still doing the free
Free
for everyone for the elementaries,
No.
but in order to do that at the secondary level, it would cost us another $50,000 plus.
Well, last year they didn't do it up here at the high school. I just want them at the elementary school.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like
Trying to,
my-
that's costing us about $25,000 a year. And it's,
A lot of board members might not know, and some of you knew, that Joy Frazier, that he even has to, and the cooks have to deal these out by spoonfuls and ounces, and different, like, what's preschool is different from what the third grader would get. And they actually have to go by ounces and things for everything that they cook. It's outrageous. I don't know how the cook even managed to get the cooking done, for counting all the ounces they're giving each child.
it's difficult.
It's a very difficult thing for these people to do.
Some of them have bread
I
on their
know.
meals and some of them don't.
Okay,
Sad.
anything else on the consent agenda? All right, are we ready to move on to item 7, board concerns? Again, this is something that Dr. Ferris indicated was important to us, and it gives board members an opportunity to bring to the board any items that they feel the board should be concerned about or informed about, and certainly gives the opportunity for any future action if needed. Okay, Dr. Armour, did I see your hand?
Yes, sir. For the information for the people who came, each one of the board members was given an assignment by the president a year or two ago. And that was done so that we wouldn't have to try to master everything, that each individual could try to understand his or her delegated field to try to halfway understand it. I was assigned assessment, and that was because of my background and knowledge of applied mathematics. I've spent a great deal of time digging out information on assessment, and the thing that hits me after reading all this is how in the world administrators and teachers in the field have time for anything other than reading all the information coming out and trying to assimilate. I went down to Charleston to try to find someone who could fit all this together. I was looking for an information paper. And what I found is that we have people in Charleston that have individual assignments. They're not talking to someone next to them. So it's down there, but no one has taken the trouble to put it together. So here's some of the things that I've come across in my reading, talking to people in Charleston, talking with fellow board members. It's just a mind-boggling maze of information that's coming out there. We're at a juncture in the history of the United States that something drastic is going to occur with our education system. If you look at the international rankings, we're down in the 20s or 30s when it comes to science and math and some of the other subjects. The country that leads the world is the tiny country of Finland. It has a population equivalent to the state of Ohio. But anyway, here's some of the things, here's some of the terms that's being bandied around. No child left behind, race to the top, next generation, Project 24. Now, Project 24 in West Virginia is a special project that we're supposed to evaluate how we can use modern technology in the classroom. So that's underway. Then we have NAEP rankings. Everybody is in the business of ranking what's being done to try to state where the states stand. The NAEP is the National Assessment of Educational Progress. So we have those rankings by state. The purpose of these rankings is to look at the criteria used for the rankings. If we get a low score, we can say, okay, for that criterion there, we can upgrade whatever we're doing to get a better score the next time. We hear a lot about ACT scores. We all know what ACT scores are. Well, there's a concern in West Virginia overall because our ACT scores lag. And then we hear from Charleston information about a little bit of a problem with correlations with grade point averages and ACT scores. You'd think the higher the grade point average of a graduating class, the higher the ACT scores. Well, it isn't so. So, and by the way, I'm not finger pointing, I'm not witch hunting, I'm not assigning blame, I'm just saying what I have found. And I look at this as an opportunity to try to improve. When we look at what the responsibility is for a school board, all of us have many hours of training. If you look at one of the tables in that yellow book there, there's something that says the most important responsibility of a school board member is student achievement. And then Dr. Simmons handed this out. I hadn't seen this before, but on the second page it says board committee non-negotiables, and the first thing they have is improved student achievement. So that's going to occur. Okay, what else do we have? We have Vision 2020 to add to confusion. I'm not going to talk about each one of these separately because I don't want to take that much time. Then we have the West Virginia Office of OEPA ranking. That was a ranking that came up with use of West Test scores. Well, that's going out the window with AYP scores. AYP scores, we're not going to be hearing about them anymore. College remediation, that's another concern across the nation, certainly a concern in West Virginia. It's close to 50% of the students who go to college have to have remedial training in math and English. So we have opportunities there to do a better job. Then we can just go on and on. The U.S. News World Report ranking, and when a lot of times you read this, ranking will occur by state. They won't tell you how you did it. So when Dr. Simmons talks about statistics, you don't know where this information came up. The bottom line is we spent millions acquiring information. I could rip it to pieces from a statistical perspective. You don't know what the sample size, you don't know what the variation is, you don't know who collected the data, on and on and on. So I don't have much confidence in it. Okay, Common Core. We've all heard about Common Core. We're going to march in that direction. We're going to have Common Core, and as we speak, people are working on Common Core. We're going to have national tests. associated with Common Core, so what we achieve in this state can be compared to all other states, and that's coming. And a new thing coming is compass testing. Compass testing is going to occur in high school, and the way I understand it is it's going to be done in such a way so that people who haven't attained a suitable mastery of certain skills, that'll be identified in high school, and before they go on to college, then they'll get the remediation in high school, and you don't have to pay for it later in college. Okay, now what does all this mean? How can you summarize all this? Well, my perspective is I hope we can get to the point where we'll have one assessment approach, or just a few approaches. We just can't plaster the wall with everything and spend all our time trying to understand and achieve whatever someone else dictates to us. There's another one here that I found out today, is the southern region of we got school board. Yeah. Now, they have a new program, High Schools at Work. They're coming up with standards and recommendations how to do things. And as part of what they've done, they have real good reports about all the information they accumulate. This is the 8th grade reading results, and on and on and on. So, to go back to the question I asked, what are we going to do with all this? I think we have a wonderful opportunity in the county. We're small. We only have 900 students. We have 400 students in high school. And unlike counties where we're competing one high school with another, one grade school with another in the same county, we're homogeneous. We can almost get a handle of things that we can move quickly instead of waiting. But regardless, the school's going to be judged by use of newly developed assessment outcomes. The assessment methods are complicated, require time for finalization and full implementation. And it may take 5 years before all is sorted out. I've heard some people say 10. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this field. Because the county has only one high school, this is advantageous because we can be at the forefront and take immediate steps to improve the competitive preparedness of high school graduates. It's obvious that the last chance we get preparing students to be successful in life is in high school. And when they come into the high school, if we can improve their skills, we need to, and we certainly don't want any of those skills to diminish. Okay, so as I see it, and people can take issue with this, we can debate it. I don't consider myself having the last word in any way. But we have an opportunity to set objectives. I would like to toss out the idea, let's do something. And when I use something as a term, I can't tell you what it is. To improve the ACT score, reduce need for college remediation, enhance general life skills of high school graduates with greater potential to achieve personal goals, to make Gilmer County High School known for ranking in the top 1/3 among all of West Virginia's public high schools. I don't even know how many there are. I got one figure of 113, another 152, so I'll use 113. Okay, what do we do? I don't think, if you go around this table and you ask Mr. Blankenship, Dr. Simmons, and the rest of us, what are we going to do? I'll have to say, I don't have the slightest idea. I don't know. But we have a resource in this state that trained professionals in RESA 7. They are taking the lead in developing technology, understanding all this, and they're ready to move right now. I think we have a wonderful opportunity if we involve RESA 7 and say, come in as a trial and help us to do whatever we need to do the very best job within our means to give our students the best opportunity they can have. Therefore, we've been told we can make motions. They don't have to be accepted, but I would like to jump into the water and be the one to make the first of the motion. And here's my motion for the board to consider. Request RESA 7. Now, they are the experts in the field. We are told definitely that more and more we're going to get our help from RESA 7, not Charleston. request Recess 7 to provide a comprehensive plan by the mid-2013-14 school year to improve reading, math, and English proficiency scores of Glenville High School seniors by the end of the 2016-27 school year, 3 years from now, to rank the school in the top 1/3 in quality among all West Virginia public high schools. I think it's doable. It just requires our being proactive and taking the lead and getting help from proper people and getting everyone in this county. The teachers are already there. They have the hardest job. And we need to involve the parents, the business community, and everyone else that we can. I'd like to come into Gilmer County and see a sign. We are the top 1/3 of all schools in the state of West Virginia. And we have some spatial problems here because a study came out last week. We hear all this talk about using modern technology for instruction. A study came out ranking the different states where we stand with access to computers in the home. We're 48 out of 50. So we may have to do innovative things like even figure out how to compensate for the lack of families here without computers, if that's going to be part of what we're after. So anyway, that is all I have to say. I had to change this on the spot. So I'll make this as a motion. I'll read it once again. The motion is request Recess 7 to provide a comprehensive plan, and they can involve anyone they want to. Get the experts who know what they're doing by the mid-2013-14 school year. That'd be at the end of this first semester, to improve reading, math, and English proficiency scores of Gilmer County seniors by the end of the 2016-27 school year, to rank the school in the top 1/3 in quality among all West Virginia public high schools. That's a little bit complicated. But that's the best
Okay,
I
well,
can do.
that's
Could
a
you-
motion.
Add to the motion that they use us as a projected county.
Well, I left this kind of vague because I don't feel comfortable as a board member and a person that hasn't taught K through 12 to try to tell experts how to do the job.
But, I mean, they have to start with the county
They
since
start
ours
with
is
the county, and
smallest.
we go to Recess 7 and
And we
request.
could suggest that.
And we can
this-
suggest
our county.
that they take us as a demonstration plot. That's what we call the federal government.
Right, absolutely.
Actually, they have a state mission that they're required to work with the, remember we talked about the very lowest counties on the new rankings?
Yes, absolutely.
The priority, I believe.
Priority county.
Yeah, and then they also have the one that's above the next, which is
Sport.
support. It's focus.
Yeah.
So they have a mission right now that they're required by the state board
Yeah.
to work with those two classifications of schools.
Yeah.
And I think I indicated earlier that we don't have any in priority or focus.
No, we do not.
Now, I suspect we'll have some schools in the support area. So that would be probably the area that they would be required to work with us in.
Yes, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if they make us the, what is it called? Some county that you could make the top county.
Pilot.
Pilot study, yeah.
What?
Like a pilot.
A pilot. Make us the pilot county. We don't have to be at the bottom.
Yeah, I would,
If
and I
we're
don't,
the pilot,
I don't want to try to play down this, obviously, but I don't know that they'll have the resources to do a pilot. But they certainly have the mandate from the state board to work with schools that are in those rankings, especially priority and focus to begin
we're
with.
not gonna get hooked with it very well because we don't.
The
we're not
problem,
in
and
those.
we've talked about it
That's what I'm
several
saying.
times,
If
we
we're the
know,
pilot county,
we know
we
there's
do.
a problem. We know that it's a complex of instruction, leadership, assessment, and I'll add one other element, culture. Yeah, we're up against some cultural issues. Some students come to school not as prepared to learn as others because of a lot of problems in their lives. And so that's another element that we add, but without enough information to know where we ought to tackle the problem first, I think we need to have an outside view to give us an assessment on, here's where we see some issues, and here's some issues, and here's what we recommend. And that gives us a plan. And I agree. I think this is a number one priority for me as a board president. I talk again with a lot of people, and I talked recently with the alumni group for the old Glenville High School. And one of the problems that they have a scholarship committee. And when they're making awards to students from Gilmer County High School, as they have for years, first thing they look at is GPA. And if you have a student with an outstanding grade point average, that's where you begin to look. What they were running into is that they were awarding scholarships to high GPAs, and then ACTs were way down here. And in many cases, the students were dropping out of college after a semester or a year because they were having difficulties. And they said it makes it hard for us to make an accurate assessment on who is scholarship worthy. So there's a lot involved. It's a complex of issues. The bottom line is that, you know, if a student is going to go to college, an ACT composite of 21 or 22 is a reasonable expectation. If you're going to go to med school or law school, it's up in the high 20s. If you've got an 18 ACT composite, you've got problems. And this isn't the student's fault. I think as a board, this falls on us. This is a responsibility we have. And if I hear you correctly, Carl, you want us to get started on a project to change this.
I think it's gonna take 5 years before all this is ironed out, because the ESCA flexibility waiver that was done, they came up with a new set, success, transition, focus, support, priority. And why wait 5 years? We can take the opportunity right now. Why even be concerned about priority, support, or focus? Let's go out and get help from these people and say, what can we do right now to be as good as we can be?
We certainly can make that request.
Make the
That's
request.
why
If
I'm
they say no,
suggesting that.
We have your motion. Do we have a second? Let's do
I'll
this
second
one.
it.
You second it?
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just think, I agree, when you look at our ACT scores in some subjects, and they continue to get lower and lower, we should not be happy with an 18. If you have kids that wanna go on to law school, or they wanna go on to be a doctor or whatever, they better be up there in the mid-20s or a little lower, or, you know, they're in trouble. So we need all the help we can get. And I'm no way criticizing the teachers or whatever, that,
Well, it's a culture.
Whatever.
We've
yeah,
evolved.
you know, we've evolved, and maybe we need to get a little jolt.
And as an old English teacher, I can tell you, when I finished teaching, I was giving a lot more A's and B's than I did 20 years earlier. There was a time when this young man's father was a student, a C in a class was a good grade. And over a period of time, I think we was all gravitated to grade inflation. And we lost sight of whether that grade actually reflects actual learning. And I think that's what the new standards are trying to get back at, that a grade actually reflects what the student has learned. And I think this study will help us get a grip on it, because you can't fix something until you figure out what's wrong with it.
We certainly will make that request.
Okay, we have a vote on the motion. Are we ready? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those nay. Ayes have it. So, Mr. Superintendent, I think you realize fully the gravity and the seriousness that we approach this, and I think, again, Gilmer County's small. We can zero in on this and get the job done, while a lot of counties are getting tooled up. Okay, very good. Anything else to come before the board?
I just want to mention, under board concerns, and I know we have a policy on cell phone use in schools. And I think that we need to really emphasize that policy. leave it at that, but I do think that a lot of problems could be created that, with kids with cell phones in the classroom. I mean, I think they ought to be left in the locker and locked up when they walk in the door in the morning and get it out when they go home in the evening, you know, if they want to bring themselves out. But they should not be allowed in the classroom.
I've been around a long time, seen a lot of cheating, and it never entered my mind that people would use texting to cheat on tests.
Well, it is absolutely amazing how adept these kids are. And I've seen it when they can text and never get that cell phone out of their pocket except to look at it to see what they've never adopted yet to figure out what the answer is without looking at it. But they can sure text so quick with that cell phone in their pocket. And I think that, and I think there's other inappropriate uses that they can use that could really cause some problems with that cell phone.
We can certainly,
Particularly when every cell phone now comes with a camera. And,
we certainly can reemphasize that.
it needs to be, I think, strictly enforced.
Okay, very good. Anything else? All right, well, hearing none, we will move on to delegations. And again, your remarks addressed to the superintendent and Dendra Miller.
I've been doing some research and looking into more about the Marcellus drilling going on over at Normantown. I've been interested in it since they first started operations there because it's new to our area. I don't know a lot about it, so generally, people are leery of what they don't know about. So I've had a couple meetings with a lady named Stacy Brodak from Noble Energy, and I spoke with her just today. And we were talking about air quality, water quality, and I'm concerned about the kids at Normantown and the air quality there, with them being so close to the well, being outside exposed to it on a daily basis. Goodness forbid if something would happen, like the explosion that took place in Doddridge County a couple of weeks ago, that stuff goes up into the air and it goes, who knows how far, depending on the wind and that. And according to Ms. Brodak, they are not concerned. They feel that they have everything in place that's needed, that it's not a danger. But she did tell me they have what they call hot zones, hot, warm, and then cool, going out from the well. So Normantown, she contacted me back, she got the information. It's actually in the warm zone, which is within a mile from the well. So my question for the board would be, do you have any kind of emergency plan? Have you looked into the safety issues with the well being so close to the school, with the heavy truck traffic on the road and the school buses when they're picking kids up and dropping them off? And, there already is an increase in big truck traffic, and that's going to continue. It's going to continue to increase. I was told that the volunteer fire department had been out to the site and that they've had some special training. I spoke with Martin Hess just a while ago. He said that's not the case, that only Susie Kirkpatrick, the OES director, have been out there. And speaking with Ms. Brodak, I said, so how did, she indicated that probably the board should have an emergency plan specific to that kind of a situation, and that, you would work with the fire department on that. And speaking with Mr. Hess, they have not had any special training. They have not been given any special information about the well. So I would recommend to the board that you get with the fire department, that you all get with Ms. Brodak, and I have business cards here for her, for you all to contact her. If you need to have questions, want to get together for some kind of a workshop between the fire department, the board, and it's a very big concern for me, for my son being so close there every day. And while, Ms. Brodak, of course, says there's no problem with the water, there's not going to be a problem with the air, we have all this stuff, that's great. But you can't say. Y'all need to have an evacuation plan if those kids have to be taken out of that school, and it's obviously going to be different than a bomb threat, because just getting them away from the school and having them stand outside, that's not going to help in the case of, an explosion where the air is full of toxic chemicals. I would like to put that out there to you all. If, you know, I would like to be kept informed on what you're doing and what's going on, because school's starting very soon. And those kids are right there, within the warm zone, according to, you know, what they consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we have that, Mr. President, put on the agenda next time? Since,
Well, we certainly could put on the agenda the next time an update on what we've found between now and then. But I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah, it is.
And hopefully be working on something in the process, because our next meeting's not until after school starts, so maybe.
Oh, one other thing, she told me that there should be a meeting coordinated with the school for emergency planning before school starts, a round table with, you know, I mean, that was what she told me, that she thought that there was something planned, or should be something planned, you know, before school starts.
Prior to.
So I would definitely recommend getting with Mr. Hess. He's interested in learning anything he can, because when I said, oh, you've been out there, right? And he said, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good idea. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We stand adjourned.
I only had 2 business cards, but if any of the rest
The
of you want
trucks
her
are what
number,
we
you're
really
welcome
need.
to take it off
And
of
I
there.
tell you, some of those drivers are
I
half
can give
asleep.
you her email as well.
Actually, this company notified me before they started putting trucks in there early.
S. Brodak,
And asked what time our buses were at, because many states have what's called blackout zones.
at
And I told him, he said, we'll try to make sure we don't have any traffic during the time your buses are.
there's
So I appreciate that.
LE.
Yeah, I know Will, when our son, he was functioning up in Wetzel County.
Mhm.
.com.
They couldn't be on the road